Please video like and subscribe this channel. They called him a boy, even though by human law he was already an adult. That distinction mattered more than anyone realized. Cale Morgan was 19 standard years old enough to vote, enlist, and sign away his future to contracts written in languages he barely understood. But to the Virexian Empire, where lifespans stretched centuries and adulthood was measured in experience rather than years, he was still very much a boy. And because of an ancient law no one had bothered to update, he was about to become a husband to an alien woman who never wanted him. The day it happened, Cale stood barefoot on the white stone of the binding platform, the twin suns of Virexia burning down on his neck. The crowd surrounding the platform shimmered with color, tall, elegant Virexians with skin like liquid opal and eyes facetted like gemstones. Their ceremonial robes flowed as if alive, whispering in a language Cale couldn't understand. He understood enough, though. He was property now. Across from him stood Lady Serin Velcora. She was beautiful in a way that made it hurt to look at her. Not soft beauty, sharp, controlled, and distant. Her armor was ceremonial, etched with sigils of command. A circlet of living crystal hovered just above her brow, pulsing faintly with her heartbeat. Her expression was carved from ice. Cale swallowed and forced himself not to flinch when her gaze flicked to him. It wasn't hatred in her eyes. It was resentment. The High Arbiter raised his staff, its head blazing with light. By the laws of convergence, he intoned, the debt of blood and life shall be balanced. The survivor shall bind their fate to the saved. Cale's hands curled into fists. This was his fault. 3 weeks earlier, he'd been nobody, just another human exchange trainee on Virexia Prime, assigned to assist in cultural integration projects. He'd been working dock logistics the day the attack happened. A rogue faction opposed to the Empire detonated charges near the Royal Transit Spire. Everyone ran. Cale didn't. He'd seen Serin trapped beneath a collapsing energy lattice, her shield failing. He didn't know who she was then, only that someone was going to die if he didn't act. He'd grabbed a manual stabilizer, overloaded it, and held the field long enough for her to escape. The backlash nearly killed him. When he woke up in a medical chamber, the room was filled with armed Virexians kneeling. That was when he learned the truth. Serin Velcora wasn't just a noble. She was the last unbound matriarch of House Velcora, a ruling bloodline that controlled entire star systems. And according to Virexian law, if a matriarch's life was saved outside formal combat, the debt could only be repaid one way. Marriage. I object, Serin said now, her voice cool and precise, cutting through the ceremony like a blade. For the final time. The Arbiter inclined his head respectfully. Your objection is noted, Lady Velcora. And denied. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Serin's jaw tightened. He is a child by our standards. Cale felt every eye turn toward him. I am legally an adult, he said quickly, his voice echoing more than he expected. On Earth. The Arbiter regarded him with mild curiosity. Your species' laws are brief. Serin looked away, her crown crystal flaring faintly with anger. This bond will weaken my house. It will strengthen it, the Arbiter replied. A life debt unfulfilled invites decay. The law exists to prevent endless vendettas. Cale's chest felt tight. Lady Serin, he said softly, I never meant for this. She finally looked at him fully. I know, she said. And somehow, that made it worse. The binding was completed with a pulse of light that sank into both their skin, a faint sigil appearing at Cale's wrist and Serin's collarbone. The crowd bowed. Just like that, the galaxy decided their lives. They didn't speak during the transport back to House Velcora's citadel. The vehicle glided over crystal spires and living cities, but Cale barely noticed. His mind raced with everything he'd lost, his return ticket to Earth, his anonymity, his future. Sarin stood at the viewport, arms crossed. You will not be treated as a consort, she said suddenly. Nor as a lover. This is a political bond only. Kale nodded. That's fine. Her eyes flicked to him. Do not mistake my restraint for kindness. I did not choose this. I didn't either, he said. Silence stretched between them. When they arrived, Kale was given quarters far from hers. Guards watched him constantly, not threatening, but ever present. He learned quickly that being married to a matriarch did not make him powerful. It made him dangerous. The court whispered. Some saw him as a symbol of humility, others as contamination. Sarin worked relentlessly, drowning herself in governance. Kale saw her only in public settings, formal meals, council gatherings, where she treated him with distant courtesy. Weeks passed. Then the threats began. It started with subtle things, disrupted supply routes, hostile votes in the conclave, rumors questioning Sarin's fitness to rule. Her enemies framed the marriage as weakness. Kale overheard it all. One night, unable to sleep, he wandered into the Citadel's lesser archives, quiet halls filled with memory crystals. He didn't realize Sarin was there until she spoke. You should not be here, she said. He turned to find her seated on a low dais, her armor discarded, wearing simple robes. She looked tired. Not angry. Just worn. I couldn't sleep, he admitted. She studied him. Neither can I. They sat in silence for a while. Then Kale said, You hate this. Yes. You hate me. She hesitated. No. I hate what you represent. What do I represent? She met his eyes. Change. And uncertainty. Kale swallowed. I don't want to be your burden. Her expression softened, just a fraction. You are not a burden. You are a complication. Over time, complications became conversations. Kale learned Virexian history. Sarin learned human stubbornness. He listened when she spoke of responsibility that stretched back generations. She listened when he spoke of growing up in a world where power wasn't inherited but fought for. Slowly, the resentment dulled. Until the coup attempt. It came during a conclave session, when Sarin stood before rival houses to argue for trade reforms. The chamber exploded into chaos as energy shields snapped into place and assassins emerged from hidden passages. Kale didn't think. He moved. He tackled Sarin behind the dais as a bolt of plasma scorched the air where her head had been. He dragged her through a service corridor he'd memorized from old schematics, sealing doors behind them. You learned the Citadel, she gasped as they ran. I didn't want to be useless, he said. They barricaded themselves in a command node. Guards were fighting. The Citadel shook. You should have let me die, Sarin said quietly. No, Kale said fiercely. I didn't save you once just to watch it happen again. She stared at him. In that moment, she didn't see a boy. She saw a partner. The coup failed. The conspirators were exposed, houses that had hoped to use the forced marriage as proof of Sarin's weakness. Instead, it became proof of her strength. Before the full conclave, Sarin stood with Kale at her side. This human was forced upon me by law, she said. But he chose me by action. If you question my rule, you question your own laws. No one spoke. Later, alone on a balcony overlooking the living city, Sarin faced him. The law may have forced this bond, she said. But I will not force the rest. Kale's heart pounded. Meaning? If you wish to leave, she said, I will dissolve the union through abdication of debt. He thought of Earth. Of the life he'd never really fit into. I don't feel forced anymore, he said. She studied him for a long time. Then she smiled, not as a matriarch, but as a woman. Then perhaps, she said softly, this bond can become something chosen. The galaxy would still call him a boy. But standing beside her, Kale finally understood something profound. Power wasn't about age or species. It was about the courage to stay. When leaving would have been easier,